Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of Munch Buds.
Munch Buds.
I am Colin, and with me I have a 4-piece Cane's meal, because it's delicious, and a Dr. Pepper.
That's fantastic. Well, hi, I'm Sam. I'm one of the other members of Munch Buds, and I have also a Cane's meal, but it's a kid's meal with a really tiny Coca-Cola.
And it looks delicious. And this time we figured out the mic so that I can be heard as well.
He doesn't sound like he's trapped anywhere.
So this time, hopefully, everyone can hear me.
Right.
And not so much of my eating when I do that.
Speaking of eating, let's crack this open.
Yeah, let's get it.
Oh my gosh,
started.
I forgot about the thing where, like, you know, like Chick-fil-A does the thing where, like, you give your toy back in the kids' meal and you get a free ice cream cone.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that Chick-fil-A does that.
I didn't know that.
I don't...
What is that? Is that like a cardboard build-it thing?
It's
a boombox.
For a phone stand.
What?
I'm actually going to keep this. I'm going to keep this
You
and build
should.
this myself and for later. Because I'm definitely going to use that.
That's kind of cool.
I know,
It's
seriously.
like a cardboard... It's like a... Is that a boombox?
Yeah, it's a
like
boombox
to make it
phone
louder,
stand.
but it's just cardboard.
Yeah, no, but like it's either way. If even if it's a boombox or a phone stand, dude. I mean, like, this is kind of smart.
This
is how you grab the kids' attention.
Shout out to Cane's
Yeah,
sponsor.
seriously.
Yeah, I wish.
We are not sponsored by Cane's.
Though that would be really cool. Maybe one day.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think they did alright with the I mean, I'm pretty sure they aimed it pretty well at the kids because they're well aware that like now like two months old have iPhones now, so that's fantastic.
I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the whole fast food like kid part of it is super dead. And McDonald's is like the biggest culprit, of course. And I know everyone's talked about it, but like they're all entering the very modern minimalistic type of look. I mean, they're getting rid of all the play structures. I used to go to McDonald's just to go in the play structures because like it was fun.
No, seriously. I mean, like, right, the magic of it is not there anymore. Which, you know, like, I remember as a kid, I'm like, I couldn't wait for a kid's meal. Like, it was almost like a gamble of which toy you'll get. Like, if you got a rare one and stuff like that.
It's a smart idea to lure in kids. Yeah. There's a play structure, you get a free toy and chicken nuggets.
Did you just say lure in kids?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Entrapment. But yeah, it just makes me think about, like, how much... Because obviously we're young, but we're old enough that now we can see how time has, like, changed around us. I'm sure some older people would hate that, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Back in my day, we didn't have toys. We had a nickel and 2 sticks.
And that's awesome, bro. But, like, because there's some people... I had this teacher in middle school, and she was like, no. I grew up without a TV, so my kids don't get one. Why?
Okay.
I had to suffer, so my kids get to suffer. No, the whole point is even if you had great parents, you learn from their mistakes, I'm going to be a better parent than them, you know? But when you do something like that, because all their friends have TVs, so they're not going to invite their friends over. They're going to always want to go to their friend's house, you know? I don't know. I had some friends like that. Like, they weren't allowed to eat candy. So every time they came over, they wanted so much candy.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. Honestly. Sorry, I was chewing on something. Honestly, it doesn't have to be just kids, too. What I realize is that we have a class where our teacher is very against technology. Like usage of phones and stuff like that.
Because of the addiction.
Yeah, so we were required to get like a notepad or like a piece of paper and a pencil and something to write it down. Which, look, I get it. I get that, like, you know, where you come from and what you like experience, like that could be your side of the story of like, oh man, like, no, like I know what phones do to my to people. And if you want to prevent that, that's cool, but man, I sometimes feel like you kind of have to get with the times.
Yeah.
You know? Because whether you like to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whether you like to admit it or not, it's this world is constantly changing, and the norms of society are not the same as they were in the past.
Right. You can hate it all you want, but that's not gonna stop the progression, you know? I mean, like, I don't know how I feel about freaking 4-year-olds having their own iPhone and tablets and stuff.
Right.
And that's mainly because I didn't grow up with one, so that's weird to me. And I'm like, that's more like an adult thing. Mm-hmm. But then that brings into question, when is it appropriate to introduce that to them? Because at the same time, there's apps that are great for kids learning, mm-hmm. but then you have iPad kids. You know, I used to bus at a restaurant, and there was a couple families that did this, but one of them was awful, where they were regulars. I saw them at least once, maybe even twice a week.
Okay.
And they were nice, but it's 2 parents and their 2 little girls. Mm-hmm. And the parents were very nice, and when they came, they would have conversations and eat, and both their little girls would sit across from them, wearing headphones and on their iPads watching their own movies the entire time. Yeah, every single time they came in. Mm. And, like, I think it's cool. You can watch movies on your iPad and stuff, but if you're taking your kids out to dinner, why don't you have, like, family time?
I don't know, seriously.
Like, when's enough, I guess?
Right.
Like, I'm all for technology, but everything in moderation, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a complicated topic, because I had a flip phone in elementary school, but that was for the sole purpose. There was like 5 buttons. It was like to call my dad, to call my mom. Mm-hmm. You know, just for safety reasons.
Of course. I had my dad's old BlackBerry.
Oh, I had a BlackBerry. Yeah, it was a BlackBerry. Yeah.
And man, I remember like the most amount of fun we got out of those phones. You kids out there who don't remember, is we had chess. Yay, chess. And woohoo. If you were lucky, solitaire. Something like that. And, you know, you kids don't know how to play solitaire. I don't even know how to play solitaire.
I don't know how to play solitaire.
I'm just kidding. But like, kind of going back to your point about, like, some parents, like, letting their kids do that, I think that's where you have to be a parent, you know? Mm-hmm. That's the point where you have to be like, all right, look, I know, like, because here's the thing, iPads to kids, they're just toys.
They are just toys.
Right, like, they don't know any better. They're just kids. They
don't know what addiction means or dependency.
Right, exactly. But some parents get, like, super paranoid to the point where, like, they completely cut it off.
Right.
And it creates jealousy and resentment. That's in my experience. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then eventually, if a parent kind of gives in too much, then they're spoiled. Mm-hmm. You know. So I mean, obviously, I'm not a parent yet. I hope I could be a dad one day, but I do not like envy the amount of work it takes to find the line between, you know, spoiling and like what's the word I'm looking for? Like taking away. Stripping them of I would say stripping them of like stuff.
Entertainment?
Yeah.
You know, modern day entertainment. Yeah, I mean, parenting, it's always boggled me, because, like, at the end of the day, there isn't one right way to do it, because kids are different. You know, and my dad, and I think he's a great dad. He's made his mistakes, of course, who hasn't? But one thing he says is he's like, whatever a kid does, it's not their fault, it's the parents. And I don't know how I feel about that. In some ways, I do agree. Because if there's a 2-year-old who's just, like, I don't know, you don't give them a cookie, and they're freaking out, like 2 to 4-year-old, and they are crying and screaming, it's probably because you always give them a cookie when they ask. That's on the parent.
Right.
But I don't know, if there's a 10-year-old who's beating the shit out of you, you know, and punching you and stuff, and you beat them up back, of course, you know, but you say the right things to get them to stop, and then they're always hitting people. I don't know. At what point is it the kid is the problem?
Right. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the reason why people say that, like, it's a parents, because obviously when a kid is, like, you know, born and their brains are, like, first starting to develop, their environment is their life. It's their world. And because they're like a freshly written book, it fills up they're like a sponge. It fills up so much of their life, like, immediately from the start, that even like simple mistakes that parents can make can be rubbed off on young kids in the wrong way.
The simplest, littlest things can have the biggest effects on kids, both
Right.
good and bad.
Yeah.
And it's nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
What part of you is born you, and what part is raised to be you? Because you told me you really like marine biology, you know, and you told me that was because of the sea monkeys. You got sea monkeys, and that's when you were like, oh my god, this is like so cool.
Oh,
right?
That's kind of. Yeah, we were having a conversation about it, but I actually, you know, I would like. Sorry, I don't want to use the word correct you.
No,
But I wasn't
Correct
I
me.
wasn't able to explain the full story to Colin, but I will be more than happy to explain it now. So that is really interesting because I have no idea where my love of the ocean came from. I don't know if it was maybe my grandma, my dad's side. She passed away about a few years back, but you know, of course, bless her soul. And she loved the ocean.
Okay.
Like, a lot. And there's a story that my parents would always tell me, and they would say like, Sam, you know, when you were younger, when you first went into the ocean, you didn't cry, you didn't react, and
Like on a beach?
yeah, in the beach, they just threw me in the water, and I loved it, and I never understood.
You weren't afraid of drowning, right?
Yeah, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't
Right.
crying. I wasn't even with my parents when I was in the water. I was with like my grandpa, and I loved it. So I don't know where my love of the ocean came from, but it stuck with me so importantly, to the point that sometimes I used to go to the beach like by myself just to relax, and I would just like cry because it was so beautiful.
It was just like so surreal, and the vibe. It was just like the perfect environment for you.
Right, and that's not the same with other people, which I think kind of goes back to, you know, what you say, like when is it something that you're born with, and when is it something that you were taught. And
Right.
definitely the ocean one or the beach one is a pretty good example of something that like kind of just developed on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you say you can't remember. You don't know if it's because your grandma also did, or if you were born like that, or if there's just a memory you forgot where it's like, oh my god, I love the beach. I love the ocean. And it's so complicated because, like, you know, I liked the idea of video games as a kid. Was I born destined to like video games? I don't know. Was I always going to find Halo, or was it because I went to my friend's house and he happened to be playing it and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool." And now I'm obsessed with it.
Right.
You know? I mean, I guess that's a more broad example.
No, but no, that makes sense. I mean, I remember I have also a similar story, and this is definitely because of my environment that I got hooked onto this. Around the time I was in elementary school, Pokemon was super popular, especially in my school.
Mine too.
And I remember seeing a bunch of these kids with Pokemon cards, showing each other, trading, whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my goodness, I want to be like them.
I want in."
Yeah, I want in.
Yeah.
Deal me in. I want cards. I need cards." So it started off just for a means, just to make conversation with, like, you know, strangers. But eventually it like grew on me, attached to me, and it kind of became one of my root things because it happened when I was a kid. In the future, that's when my love for Nintendo grew, my love for Pokemon grew even more, and it just stuck with me, and I still love Pokemon to this day. Oh my god! I just burped. I'm so sorry, guys. That was gross. If people have a problem with that in the future, I'll censor it out. But you know, whatever.
But yeah, it's because I also went to a school, and there were a lot of kids who liked Pokemon. They were trading in between every class. Every time I'm walking to class or during lunch, they're always messing with their cards, you know? And that was my environment, but then I'm like, was I born not gonna like that? Because I was surrounded by it, I hated it. I don't hate it now. I'm not super into it, but it was so popular that I had to be different. I don't know. But
still, like,
it's
basically,
it's an interesting thing.
yeah. I mean, we have the same story of our environment changing the way that we view things now. but yours and mine are like totally opposite ends of the scale, but it's the same thing that affects us.
Surrounded by the same thing, you fell in love with it, and I grew to hate it. I guess that shows what kind of person I am.
But also goes to show what kind of person I am too. It's like it is the same. It is the same domino that topples us. We just went in two different directions.
Right. And that's obviously not saying that you love everything everyone else loves and I hate everything people love.
Just Pokemon specifically.
Yeah, just Pokemon. You know, parenting seems so hard. Because you could do just... You're having a great day and you do one wrong thing and that could change the kid's life forever. You know? I mean, you could be... drop down the stairs one time and now you never want to go upstairs again and have an ongoing fear. Or I was probably like 6, maybe 8 years old, and we were going to the beach. And I like the beach. I've always hated the sand. I don't know why. It just really irritates me when it's like stuck on my skin and stuff. And we're going to the beach in San Diego and it's fine. I don't mind. We went all the time. And then I hated seaweed. I hated touching it. It feels gross. It's slimy.
Seaweed.
And so I'm in the ocean. I'm just standing there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get over this because it's not gonna hurt me. Let's just relax. If it like touches your leg, whatever. And so right after I say that, some seaweed's coming, and I'm like, okay, just like let it touch your leg. It's fine. And then I feel like, what the hell was that? Oh my god, that really stings. I run out. It was a jellyfish.
Oh my god.
It wrapped around my leg and it stung me. And so, because when a jellyfish stings you, it's poison, is what it is. And so all over my thigh was these huge like red bumps, all around it. Jeez. I was freaking out. I'd still freak out, but back then I'm crying. What's happening to me?
It's like I just touched seaweed.
It was a jellyfish, and so like. I poured vinegar on it, and I did pee on it, and it did help.
Oh.
In the shower. I was alone.
I think that's important, yeah.
Yes.
Myth busted.
But I say that because then, for a while, I did not want to go to the beach, and I did not like going to the beach.
Completely understandable.
And if we did go, because everyone else was going, I wouldn't go in the water. I don't want to be stung again.
Right. I have a similar story to that. My brother, he also doesn't like the beach at all. And
but you love it,
right? But
my dad loves it. I'm alright. You know, it's you were saying.
Yeah. But I know exactly how like even experiences and interactions too can change the way you think. Because my brother, when he was younger, I don't know what my dad was thinking. I love my dad too. He's just hilarious. I don't know what he was thinking, but he thought it was such a good idea to chase this tiny kid around the beach and force him to go in the water while he's like crying and bawling and screaming, and still my dad would like get my brother and like put him in the water. And to this day he doesn't enjoy the beach, probably because of what he did. It was a negative experience for him. That's why he held on. And like I said before, I completely don't blame you. Because it's stuff like that makes us who we are.
Now I'm like cool with the beach. But yeah, that lingered with me for years. But it's funny how the same events can affect people so extremely differently. Just like the Pokemon thing.
Yeah.
But like when I was a lot younger, my dad would take me to Disneyland all the time. You know? But I was so young I don't remember every single trip and all the details.
Of course.
I was pretty young. And so, one time we're at Disneyland and we're going on Splash Mountain. And I was pretty young, and I have a huge fear of heights, especially back then.
Oh, fear of heights.
Yeah, and I'm trying to overcome it. You know, I work in a scene shop. If they need someone to go on a ladder or go up high, I offer to do it because I want to stop being afraid of heights. It's pretty bold. It's working. And I was doing it today. And so we're waiting in line for Splash Mountain, and I'm getting nervous, and then... I don't remember this, and my dad just does. And so we go on the first drop, and I'm like screaming and freaking out. I was freaking out before going on it because I knew it was a big drop. And I was sitting in the front, and then my sister, and then my dad, because it's like the one person thing.
Okay.
And, you know, it takes a picture at the last the last one, and apparently I was screaming and sobbing and miserable. And my dad hates that memory. He's like, why did I make you sit alone? Why did I make you go on that? You clearly didn't want to go on that. I regret that so much. He's like, I remember that picture exactly to this day because I feel so guilty and I'm sorry.
Oh.
Every time they bring it up, I'm like, Dad, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
And I like Splash Mountain. You know, it didn't affect me long term,
Right.
but it did to him. You know, but I was the one in the moment who was freaking out. But I don't give a shit.
It's really interesting because we were just talking about how like traumatic events can affect a person, but you're proof right there that like it's not always the case.
Right.
That's weird. I wonder what the difference is between that.
I don't know.
Because you're absolutely right. There are some memories where like kids just like completely forget, but there are other memories where kids
They hold on
hold
to
on to
so tight.
So I guess that's like the choice of the kid by that point, right?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
It's so complicated. I mean, like,
it's pretty interesting.
another story about Disneyland, about trauma.
Let's do it.
I love Disneyland, but you know, when you go so often, something's bound to happen. So this is actually last year by now. Yeah, this was probably like last year around now. I was going with my friends, and we're having a good time. We're chilling. Everyone's happy. And we go to sit down at, it's a little later in the day, and we go to sit down after a long day of going on rides. The end of the day is approaching.
Right.
And we sit down in one of the restaurants. It's closed. I think it's like Hungry Bear in Critter Country or something.
I mean, I don't remember the last time I've ever been to Disneyland, so...
Oh, we gotta change that.
I know, yeah.
Come on now.
That's one of my bucket lists, is go to Disneyland.
You've never been?
No, I've been when I was like 5. But I don't
that
remember.
barely counts.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh my
anything
god, we
from
should
it.
all go. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so ever since then, I've never been to Disneyland. Yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, and we'll have a podcast and explain how much I loved it or hated it. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to do it because I have a key, so I can go whenever.
Yeah, you.
I love Disneyland.
No, if you let me, I would be more than happy to come.
Yeah,
I'd never had any connection yet.
That would be awesome. We should definitely gotta do that.
We'll do that.
But yeah, so we're sitting down at Critter Country at the restaurant, and one of my friends, she when she was sitting down, the back of the chair, she accidentally like slammed the back of her elbow into it like really hard.
Ouch.
And she was just like, oh god, that really hurt. And so she was just sitting there and on her phone, and then she was sitting right next to me, and then she like puts her head down for a bit, and we're all assuming she's just tired. She's just putting her head down, and then all of nowhere she's sitting right next to me, and her hands are up here, and then I feel it like touch my leg and fall down, and I thought she was doing a bit, so I look at her, and like both her arms fall down, and she falls back behind the chair, and she falls. Her head hits the table behind her, and she falls on the table, and we're like, Marissa, are you okay? It was Marissa.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was like, Marissa, are you okay? And then when she's laying there, she like pulsed twice, like that. But she was unconscious.
Right.
She was so I thought she was seizing up. So I run over and I pick her up like by her head gently, and she wakes up and she's smiling. She's like, "What's going on, guys?" You know. And we found out what happened was when she slammed her elbow, she hit a nerve and her blood sugar just shot down.
Dude.
So she passed out.
That's really scary.
It was really scary. And now looking back, I can laugh at it. And she makes jokes about it too.
She's okay now.
She's totally fine.
All right.
And we took her to the like doctors at Disney. She went to the doctor's like office at Kaiser afterwards, after the trip as well. Completely fine. Like the most mild, not even a concussion. But it was just really scary to witness. And so, yeah, for me, at first, that was really scary, and I didn't want to go back to, like, Critter Country, but now I don't care. I can walk by it, and it's fine. But my other buddy, Tucker, who was there on that trip, he does not like walking by Critter Country anymore.
Because of that event.
That freaked him out.
Oh, my God.
And I can't blame him. I'm not going to tell him how to feel about it. We saw one of our friends, because Marissa's sister was on that trip, too, and she held herself together, but later she was a mess. Because that's her sister. That's her best friend, you know, that she saw, like... We thought she was having a seizure. What the hell do you do when someone's having a seizure? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I mean...
But yeah, he doesn't like going near there anymore. And but I'm fine with it. He doesn't like talking about it, but I am. Same experience, but two completely different views. It's, I don't know. It's just interesting how that stuff works.
No, I completely get it because I have a very similar experience. I was with a group of friends as well. I went to Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and we were in line to get food, and it was in a particularly really hot day. But this group was actually a youth group. I'm a youth leader.
Oh, cool.
So I was
Was that like a church thing?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But we were just in a group. I was like, just looking after my kids, and we were just in line, like nothing wrong, like nobody was showing.
You were in charge of the kids.
Yeah, I was in charge of some. Yeah,
you weren't.
It was a small group. We were a pretty small church, so it's a small group. So it was only about like 5-6 kids on that whole trip. Yeah,
that's manageable.
Yeah, but we were standing in line, just nothing wrong so far. There was nothing going on until all of a sudden one of the girls just passes out and falls to the ground.
Oh Jesus!
And, like, it wasn't even like the gentle fall to her side. No, she just fell. She just leaned back and boom, hit her head on the concrete.
Oh God!
So that is like, and I was like right behind her. I was like, oh my God, like this just happened. And her little brother was there too.
Oh no!
And he was definitely younger than now, but I remember him like crying and like yelling her name while she was on the ground unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big event. Eventually the paramedics had to come.
How old were they?
I can't remember at the top of my head. I think she was in freshman year of high school and he was in like 7th grade, middle school.
Oh man, so he was younger.
Yeah, definitely on the younger side. But I mean that happened. There were like people like looking, big circles.
Yeah.
People freaking out. Ambulance came. So it was a pretty like heavy traumatic.
An ambulance
event.
came.
And the ambulance came. They
Damn.
had to take her away. But she couldn't finish the 6 Flags. So apparently what happened is I think she got a heat stroke because she wasn't drinking any water. She had no breakfast that morning, and it was a hot day. So all the signs of the
right.
pure exhaustion. And eventually, and she was also dehydrated too. She was hooked up, make sure she get rehydrated and stuff like that.
Yeah, like an IV.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm. But to this day, and I know it is because of this event. Every time I go to Six Flags, I'm very, very cautious. Mm-hmm. I get almost a little nervous because I'm always looking at the people I'm with. I'm looking at people around me because, my experience with Six Flags, I mean, I could still enjoy Six Flags. I love roller coasters.
But in the back of your head.
Absolutely.
You're always thinking like...
There's a part of me... Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, is this person going to pass
water?
out in front of me? Yeah. So I always like even after then, every time I went to Six Flags, I was always on the kids. Drink water, and I have like granola bars. I like eat something. You know what happened last time, so that's always now is like.
You still do that?
Yes. Now every time we go to an event or something like we went back to Six Flags again. I had like 7 water bottles in my backpack I was carrying around.
It happening again.
Just to make sure the kids don't.
Not on my watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I know like that is because of that event.
Mm-hmm.
And I let it kind of change the way I viewed it. It wasn't too severe as much as your friend, but it still affected me. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Yeah.
Trauma is so interesting.
It really is.
In that way. Because one little thing, I'm assuming she's okay.
No, she's fine now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can just change your entire look on something. Like forever. Or it could not affect you at all when you think it should have.
Right.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I need to I feel like I should look into that one day. Because I am genuinely curious because that is true. Sometimes we would sometimes we would go through something and be like, okay, that happened, I guess. And then another time we'll be like, oh my, and then
it sticks with you. You have nightmares about it.
Exactly. Like nightmares and stuff. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of my buddies, you'll probably meet him at some point. He comes down. He's the guy at the car dealership I was talking about.
Nice.
His name's Jacob. I love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we were talking about him last night.
Yeah. But when I started to be his friend, this was during COVID, I did a show with him, and we were buddies then, but then right before COVID started, he joined a party, and we hung out. I showed him to my friend group, and then... Excuse me.
Oh, no, you're
he
good.
very quickly...
That's 1 for 1.
Yeah. He very quickly became part of the friend group. And so, we're... Because by the time this story happens, we're in the middle of COVID. and his mom was taking it very serious, so we didn't see him super often, and he was going stir crazy in that house. So he went on drives a lot because that helps him.
Yeah, of course.
And so where we're from, in Livermore, it's a pretty big city. Landmass wise, it's not like San Francisco a city.
It is like a physically big city.
It's a suburb with just because it's a winery. That city is a winery, so there's a lot of farmland. It, like, if all the city is in one section, it just keeps going back until you're in the hills. And stuff.
Interesting, right?
And so he would often go on a drive up those hills.
Oh, that must be really nice, actually, thinking about that.
He loved it during the day. It was very peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
It's quiet, and you don't get Wi-Fi up there, and so it's very peaceful for him.
Really,
so he liked doing
separating yourself from
right. And he showed my buddy Abraham that spot, who was trying to shoot a film, and so I was up there with him. We were shooting the film during COVID for his school, and so we're up there on the spot, and we didn't even contact him. And here comes Jacob driving up there, and we're like, "Oh, what's up, dude? How you doing?"
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going on a drive." And so he goes back up, and I guess we were near the top because not even 5 minutes later we see him coming back down. And he goes around the corner. There's like trees at this loop, and he goes around the loop, and we hear, and we are up in the hills.
Oh,
like there's a slope right there, and so without even thinking, I start sprinting down that hill.
Of course.
And like a car could have hit me, but like it just fight or flight took over, and I had to go check on him. And all my friends, they were right behind me too. Everyone dropped everything. We're sprinting towards him, and he was probably like 10 feet from the. There was no guardrail. He was probably 10 feet from the rail.
Oh my god.
What happened was someone was driving, if I remember right. Someone was like, it's a 2-lane road. I guess that'd be a 1-lane road, one each way. And someone's in the lane next to him, and they were speeding and veering into his lane, and so he starts braking and he slams into the wall because they're gonna hit him.
Right.
They like turn around and they leave. It's a miss and run,
Right.
you know.
Fantastic.
And thank God he hit the wall though, because it messed up his axis on the tire. So it was rubbing the floor and killed his momentum.
Okay, good.
And that's why he didn't fall off the cliff.
Oh my
but
God.
we pull him out of the car, and he's heavy breathing. He's crying. He's a mess. He has not gone up there once since.
Oh, jeez.
And who could blame him?
Yeah, seriously.
He almost died.
Yeah.
Because, like, that was a big slope. And then the worst part is, like, a year later, his younger brother's best friend, they were coming out from a party, and the guy who was driving was drinking and driving, and they went up that hill, and they fell down the slope.
Oh my god.
And one of them died.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and his best friend was in a coma for a little bit. It was terrifying.
That is so unfortunate. Jeez. It's
Yeah.
so bad. It's so sad.
Yeah. Because that's one of those things where, like, the thing with Marissa, I'm fine with it now. But the thing with Jacob, I don't really joke about it. You know? I don't often talk about it.
Understandably.
Yeah. And sometimes when it comes up in my head, I just need to call him. Just be like, just say how you doing. You know what I mean? Or even with Marissa, sometimes it does flare up, and I need to give her a hug. I'm just so glad you're okay. You know, and I know it's so random, but I'm just so glad you're okay.
No, that's because you witnessed something, and then eventually your actual reaction kind of just obviously stuck with you. You know?
I care a lot about him because even though it doesn't, I don't lose sleep every night about it. The way that trauma for me works is every once in a while it flares up, and I'm just like, oh my god, I almost lost that person in my life. You know, and it's horrifying. And then, yeah, I that car crash where the friend did die, they were in high school. That was messed up.
I mean, by the way that you're explaining it, it seems that, like, it's just your instinct is to be a very caring person, protective person, which is obvious because the fact that it even flares up to begin with after a while just to show that you care about people, unconsciously care about people. Yeah, which is a great thing.
The close people in my life, I always say, like, those are my people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I say, like, I love my people, I'm saying, like, the people close in my life, my friends.
Yeah.
And this sounds pretentious, but sometimes I find myself, I care too much. And I mean that in the sense of they'll be going through whatever drama they're going through, and I want to help them so much that I get directly involved. And then at the end of it, I kind of become part of the problem and not helping it.
Right.
And so right now in my life, the two things I'm working on to mature is taking a step back and acknowledging not everything needs my help to solve. Like, give their support when they ask, but don't be like, well, I'm going to call her myself or whatever, you know. Work on that, and this is another topic, which is gossip.
Oh,
I'm over gossip.
Oh, yeah. We could definitely talk about that later, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I could go on and on, but I feel gossip is a high school thing, and we're in college.
Immature.
It's immature. It's pointless. Mm-hmm. And I hate admitting it, but yeah, I find it entertaining, you know? But then when it's about you, you don't.
Right.
So, unless I want to be a hypocrite, I'm trying to really cut that out. Right. In and out of my friend group, just in life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of it. It's stupid.
No, of course. Okay. I completely agree. You just now you exhibited actually a very a very wise point with you know, as much as you want to help people, if you get involved in their lives and if you want to like take control of them,
mm-hmm.
first off, who are you? Honestly, sure, you're a good friend, but who are you
mm-hmm.
to tell them what to do? And
it's
who
not
are
my
you?
life.
Yeah, exactly. And who are you to get in the way of their own growth too? Because, I mean, Lord knows that, like, you know, experience and failure can be a great teacher. They are a great teacher.
Is.
So that's why, you know, you caught yourself in the act. Saying, like, man, I mean, why would you, and also to you too, Colin, why would you do that to yourself? You know? It
brings drama and stress onto me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, if it's not directly relating to you, like, who needs that? You know?
Exactly.
You have your life to worry about. They have their life to worry about.
I got my shit to worry about.
Exactly.
Let's worry about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm working on it, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, because you never stop growing as a person.
Of course. You
know? And if you think you stop, I understand when you're older, you want to settle down, but if you say, I'm old, you can't reteach an old dog or whatever.
Yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Why not?
Yeah.
You know? What's the problem? But yeah, I mean, like, the biggest example I feel of when I just got way too involved was my buddy. This happened to two friends. They were dating. They were in a very toxic relationship.
It's always the relationship.
It's always the relationship.
Oh, gosh, because you got sides, you got friends.
Yeah, right. And they're in a very toxic relationship. And from my perspective, without the bias of, oh, I love her, mm-hmm. I'm like, yes, you might not be handling this well, and you are doing this, and this to her. But she's doing this, that, and here to you. Oy. Right? Mm-hmm. And I have long talks with them. You need to text her this. You need to cut her off. Blah, blah, blah. Two different friends. And they didn't listen because they don't want to hear that stuff. Even though it's true. Because at the time, that's the person they love. But then they figured it out on their own. And they did break up. And they're better off because of it. And, you know, that's happened to another friend after that. And I was like, I'm not making that mistake this time. They're going to figure it out on their own. And they did.
Lesson learned.
You know? Because and that was for my own sake. My mental health. Because I was genuinely stressed and concerned on the daily. And it's not my life. You know? It's my friend and I care about them. But I can't be thinking about their relationship while I'm at school.
Right.
You know?
It's just their path. And there's no rule that says that you need to cross paths with them. There's no requirement for that.
Right. Boundaries.
Exactly. Boundaries.
Boundaries I need to set for myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's very important.
And that is for like caring too much about a person and caring not enough about a person. Mm-hmm. It goes both ways. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who like had troubles finding the line between them. And, you know, that's part of it. That's part of growing up. That's part of maturing and understanding how to, you know, how you fit in society and what you do. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, we don't blame you if you struggle. You know, we don't blame you.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes, and it's gone for me too, someone tries to help me with something and I need to figure it out myself. Mm-hmm. You know? And it's not that, like, I don't need help. it's just trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, I have to learn from this mistake.
You want to grow. You want to develop your own character.
Right. Yeah. And it's not even like I tell them don't help me. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't listen.
Right.
And then I make the mistake and then I find out. And it's just the balance of life.
Yeah. I do have a little example from my past where it's around that time because I have also dealt with this. I think by the way, just by the way I even like hear your stories, you like you're a natural leader. Like
thank you.
Yeah. And I always consider myself a leader, but that it's because we just have specific characteristics that that kind of
I absolutely see that for you.
Thank you. Jeez, man. Yeah, there's a story where like this was around the time in middle school, and this was around the time where like I really broke out of my shell, and I like what I'm just gonna explode and see who's here to watch. That was my mentality. And
I like that.
Yeah, and eventually like it really taught me how to like boost my confidence. I became a lot more confident and more proud of who I was, but unfortunately I didn't do it in the best environment because
it's middle school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And not only that, the specific group of friends I was with and like the people around me were a little bit on the toxic side. So it was to the point where like in this particular middle school it was new. So all the kids that came there first were new students. Nobody really knew each other from anywhere else. It's just
you didn't come from an elementary school.
Right, exactly. It was a separate art school.
Okay.
And it just started. So it was all fresh new faces, everyone's nervous, everyone wants to make a friend group quick, and and since that's when I came out of my shell, I started to get noticed by people. And this was like around the time that was like the first time I had like a group of friends I could call my friends.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, actually, this is when I started a YouTube channel in middle school, and it was hilarious because that's how that eventually made me really popular at that school because people kind of knew like, oh, there's this kid making videos during lunchtime, and we could see him making videos.
But you made it at school.
Yeah, I made it at school during lunch.
Right.
Yeah, so I recorded. We did challenges. We did fun stuff. Some like stupid stuff. It was really fun, and that kind of like boosted my comments obviously in my ego. But eventually, like, I became a quote-unquote leader to these people. So people would come to me with, when there were struggles and stuff like that. But
God.
I made it my problem, too, because I loved it, in elementary school.
Good.
Yeah, exactly.
In elementary feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. And in elementary school, I was not very good with making friends because I was super shy. I was so nervous. But eventually, when middle school rolled around and I finally got it, I didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
Cause and that eventually made me into a not so good person. I was easily influenced by the people around me because I was so desperate to keep a strong friend group. So eventually, like, that's when, like, cursing. I did a lot of cursing. It was like I
still do.
Yeah, but like it was like my period. It was like every sentence I had to curse, but then that was only because
it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. I saw other people do it, and they like laughed. So and I love making people laugh. Like it's such a good feeling, but that's why I started cursing a lot, and eventually like I just continued to develop a bad character, and eventually there's one particular person, and it was a girl. And I had like a little crush on her.
Yeah.
But she was like in middle school. I don't call it dating, but she was like dating quote unquote someone else.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I guess I could just be a good friend. I took that.
Yeah.
But eventually, like when they quote unquote broke up, it got like really bad, and she started getting clingy, and it was really, really awkward because she started like she would send me paragraphs and paragraphs of texts and calls saying how sad and alone she is, and
you were there.
Yeah, I wanted to be there for her, but at the end of the day, she kept on saying the same things over and over again. I do my best to support, but there's so much I can do if she's not willing to grow either. But I still doted her like a child, like I was her dad or her brother, which I am not. Right. And I realized at the end of middle school, I realized like I didn't have to go through any of that.
Yeah.
That was my choice. And because when you're a kid, when you're younger, you need to find someone to blame. It's like never your fault, you know. But
Yeah.
it was that moment when I realized, like, okay, that was my fault. Like, I kind of, like, look back and I reflected, and I'm like, man, why am I even dealing with it? I was the reason why. I was the one that went up to her.
It was partially her fault. We were saying, like, oh, well, Sam will help me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely also yours because you let her.
Exactly.
You let her feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
She can always talk to me, so she always did.
She always did. Yeah, exactly. And, of course, like, I wanted my best to help her. But, you know, it's not...
What about you?
Yeah, what about me? You know, I think that was, like, the first time in my life I thought to myself, like, maybe I should kind of stand my ground here.
Yeah.
And not just, you know, be the person that these people want me to be and start becoming the person I want to be. And that's when, like, my maturity kind of, like, kicked in out of nowhere, and, like, things in the world started making a little more sense to me. And now, just for context, and Colin knows this because, like, we've been in class together for almost, like, what, a few months? Like, three months?
Time is flying. It doesn't feel like
it's
that.
Pretty,
It's been a bit.
Seriously. We're already more than, like, halfway through the year.
Damn.
For the semester.
What the hell?
But, for sure, it's, like, I don't curse. And if I do, it's very, like, I almost, like, slip sometimes.
Right.
But I almost never curse because, to me... and this is personal, and I don't saying that people are like this, but to me it was always like, well, if I'm gonna bring people joy, make people think I'm worth it, then I don't need cursing. It was almost like a cheat code to me, or like I'm like but that's, like I said, it's only personal. Like I know you curse sometimes, and I have no problem with that.
No,
like, I have no problem. Yeah,
I mean that's how I feel about like alcohol, like. If you want to drink at a club to have fun, go for it. I don't care. Me personally, I don't feel I need it to have fun. I'm not dissing anybody. It's just not for me. You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's all preference. And some people, they know how to respectfully drink alcohol.
Yes.
Without, like, you know, becoming, like, green face and stuff like that. So, I don't know if I even use the right term. Obviously, I don't drink alcohol either. Yeah. But, either way, it's like, it's that, right?
Yeah.
It's the fact that, like, you know, if we let it, hold on, let me just backtrack here. I just had a massive brain fart. What are we talking about? No, sorry, I mentioned my friend, you mentioned alcohol, how you didn't let it.
You're talking about cursing.
Yeah, cursing. Oh yeah, how, like, I moved on because it was a personal preference of mine and it was a sign of growth.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sure, like, you know, not drinking alcohol for you two is also a sense of maturity that you kind of just registered for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you were an alcoholic to begin with.
I've never been.
Right, but it's just the fact that you know. It's just the fact that you know.
I know how I work. I know what I like.
Right, and that's because you know who you are.
Yeah.
And I could definitely say 100% for certain, after that middle school phase, I definitely got to know who I was more without the influence of people or, you know, situations. Because that's why separating yourself is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
Boundaries is a very important thing.
Right. Yeah. And like you said about the leader thing, this was my mistake, and I did this twice, like 2 years apart. It's just stupid, but it goes back to like a whole ego thing, and well, really, I feel most people have an ego not because they feel that they're amazing, but it's the opposite. It's insecurity that is portrayed as an ego to compensate.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
and I feel I definitely did that in early high school and middle school, especially because people are assholes, you know?
Yeah, there's that.
But with my friend group, which I've had forever, and they're great guys, and I hope to keep them, you know, I love them to death, you know, they're fantastic people. But there was a time where, I think it was freshman year, I don't know why, but, you know, people were like, oh, you're such a leader. I'm like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, I'm the leader of this friend group. And it's one thing to think it, it's another thing to say it, and I said it to them. And even if they did agree, when you say that to someone, you're belittling them.
Right.
I was making them feel small and me feel big.
Right.
And the way I more meant it was, I contribute a lot to this group.
Yeah.
I often host, and I often help people with problems. So I'm a, quote, leader.
Yeah.
You know? But the reason I felt such a need to say that to them and why that was so important is because I wanted to be important to them. Because I love them so much that I'm scared that they won't need me. Not a dependency need me, but if I'm not important in their life like they are in mine,
then they won't treat you the same.
And so being the leader felt really good.
Right, of course.
Because then you need a leader, you know? But it's not like that. Like, yeah, I hosted a lot and I helped people with problems, but that doesn't make me any better than anyone else.
Right.
And I got over that. They gave me shit, which I needed. That I was in the wrong. You know? And then years later, when my buddy Jacob was introduced in the group, he said something... Excuse me.
No, you're good.
He said something to that effect as well. It's like, oh, you're a leader. You host off and blah, blah, blah. And then, like an idiot, I was like, oh, they're mature. They can handle it this time.
Oh.
It was stupid. And I was like, yeah, I'm basically the leader of this group. I said that to him in front of them all. And they were pissed. And they later told me that. And they had every right to be pissed. Because, you know, you have to think, how would you feel if someone said that to you? And if someone now said that in the group, or I'm the leader of the group, I'd be pissed. Because I'm like, well, then it was what I do less important.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to break people down like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think so many people, especially our age, they have a false ego. It's insecurities, you know, compensating, and so it comes out as an ego. And I know a couple people like that. But it's one of those things where they have to find that themselves. They need their humbling experience. I can't give it to them.
Right.
You know? And that's just life. And, yeah, because I had a different friend group in high school. It wasn't so much a group. It was me and two other guys, and I was really close with them. I hung out with them all the time. And I thought we were, like, in it for life.
Right.
These were my ride or die homies. Not that my friend group wasn't, and they knew them too, but these two were just something special. And it makes me so sad because, like you were talking about growing up and maturing, I feel that they weren't, and maybe they did now. I'd stop talking to them, and I hope they're doing great, truly, you know? But at the time when I stopped being friends with them, it was because I kept giving them chances because I loved what we had. I didn't want to let go. And they just kept doing the same things that really hurt my feelings. And so I need to move on, you know?
I 100% get that because that's what happened to my middle school group. Like
I had a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, they were my ride or die.
Yeah.
Like that, they were they were.
Yeah.
I don't talk to a single one of them.
Exactly.
It was like a group of like 6, 7 of us.
Right. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, not a single one of them I talked to.
Right, because you decided it's time to grow up.
Yeah.
And
actually, I wasn't even alone on that one because my parents saw that. My parents saw my attitude change. They saw that they saw that change in me, that like negative attitude, toxicity kind of behavior. They're like, okay, something is going on in this school that's changing our son. So they had to kick me out. Or they put me out. They pulled me out of the school because that was a middle school and high school.
Oh, it was both.
Yeah, so I would have continued if they hadn't pulled me out with that same group.
And you're happy they did.
At the time, I resented.
I had a feeling.
Like the hell out of them.
Right.
Because here's my mentality. I finally found a group of friends who love me as much as I love them.
Yes.
And
just like the movies.
Yeah, and you took them away from me. Of
Right.
course, I would be so mad, right?
Right.
But after the fire died down and like my parents taking all these verbal hits from me, these attitude, these like emotional and mental hits from me, they when the fire died down, I looked back and I said like that was the best thing that could ever happen to me.
Right.
Yeah, and I thank them to this day, to like of like like pulling me out of that school, because it made me who I was now, and it just took me out of a bad. You don't know you don't know that you're drinking poison until it's too late, until you die.
Yeah.
So they took me out before I realized what it was doing to me.
And like how we were talking about, perspective can be so different with the same experience. That's same thing has definitely happened to people, of where their parents took them out of schools because their behavior was changing, and I guarantee a lot of people still resent their parents for that. You know,
unfortunately,
it's complicated. Okay, those two friends, they were ride or die, and then as soon as I graduated a year early. I went to a continuation high school, and I'm not embarrassed of that. You know, it's a second chance high school.
Okay.
And I had my reasons to go, and a lot of people, they have their reasons, and people give it crap, but everyone deserves a second chance, and traditional high school doesn't work for everyone, and it didn't work for me. But college does, because it feels more like a continuation school than high school to me.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I graduated a year early there because they had opportunities to catch up on units, and so instead of catching up, I got ahead.
Nice.
Right? And so I graduated before them, but I thought, so what? I live super close to the school. I see them all the time. They very slowly stopped texting me, stopped hanging out, you know? And the only time they stopped kind of talking to each other too, they went in different directions.
Right.
Because one of them, he was so desperate to be with girls, and there was always someone else, and he tried to fit in with their group.
Oh, yeah.
And he would change his personality drastically.
Right.
And I was like, I cannot follow you down this path. And he was saying some nasty things, and he was being so insanely selfish, and he treated me like his therapist. And I could not take it. So I dropped him. But I'm still friends with this other guy, and he's great. And then I realized, he seems to only hang out with me when I'm paying for something. He only hangs out with me when we go to a Sharks hockey game, or when I take him to the movies. But when it's just to hang out and watch shows like we used to, he seems to be busy.
Oh, no.
Every time.
Oh, no.
So I stopped calling, and he stopped responding.
Oh, my God.
You know? And I still follow him on Instagram. I really hope he's doing well. Because he was a good guy, and we were so very close. It's a shame how things turned out, but I was hurt, and I was tired of being hurt, so I cut him off.
No.
I don't even know if he know. I don't know if he knows that I cut him out.
Interesting.
But it was a one-way relationship, and I will die on that hill, because he never approached me first. It took me a long time to realize that.
Oh boy, yeah.
Because he did that once before. We were friends. I transferred middle schools, and I met him in 8th grade middle school, and then we went to high school together. I went to the continuation first, and then he followed.
Okay.
He didn't follow me, but he had his reason to go as well.
Okay.
But as soon as I went to the continuation school, he stopped talking to me. It was the same exact thing. But I was thinking, he's busy. And then as soon as he goes to the continuation school, he is butt buddies with me. I mean, because he doesn't know anyone there, so he's like following me like a pet, you know? I'm not saying he is a pet.
Right.
I'm not trying to insult him.
No,
He was very close. And I resented him at first, and I pushed it, and then I thought, no, I'm happy to have him back in my life. And I opened up to him, and it just makes me so sad to think that I don't think I wasted my time. I think he wasted a friendship. I really do. I was very good to him. We had a really good thing going, and it died out.
I think just for clarity of mine, you shouldn't feel too I'm sure you don't feel upset, but you shouldn't. I want to give you the clarity that I think it was meant to happen, and I think that you're a better person now.
It was a valuable lesson that I definitely needed, and I'm grateful for that. And I don't look back at our friendship and hate him for it.
Right.
We had great times. Absolutely. We went in different ways.
Right.
You know?
There's a saying out there. show me. I forgot who quoted this, but he says, "Show me your friends, and I will show you your future." Because whether we like to admit it or not, people do have a big effect. Especially friendships have a big effect on the way we live.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if you surround yourself with a group of toxic people, you will eventually become toxic. If you surround yourself with a bunch of good people, you will
because that's the normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, my dad, he said this for a long time, and it took me a while to really hear it. Like, I heard it, but I wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, but now I do hear it, and I think it's so wise and correct. And what he always said, I might have said this last week, but I'm saying it again. I think it's great.
No, say it.
But what he was saying is, with any relationship, a good relationship is someone with the one thing they want from you is your time. They don't want your money. They don't want your attention or any of this. They want your time.
Interesting.
You did
not say this last week.
He did not want my time. So that wasn't a good relationship. But the best relationships I have right now is because they want my time. They want to hang out with me. They want to play games with me. They want to call me, you know? Or like this. I wanted to do this. I wanted to spend time with you. That's a friendship. This wasn't for some other hidden reason or something, you know? And that goes, parents, friendships, partners, everything.
Right. And they value your time. They give it weight.
Right. They want your time. They want to spend time with you. You know?
Yeah.
But it's friendships and childhood. It's weird.
Yeah.
Our interpretations of things and perspectives of how we view it, how it affects us. It's hard to fully comprehend, because why did this affect me so harshly? Why did this not affect me?
Right. It's just all of us branching out in our own different paths and our own different ways.
Right.
It's actually really fascinating.
Right. And it's still going to happen. You know, it's not like we're done. We're going to have many more stories just like this.
Absolutely.
Still growing up and becoming adults.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this episode. We'll figure out a title.
Oh, yeah.
Friends want your time. I don't know.
friends want your time,
Friends
or
want
it
your
could be
time.
like trauma in effect.
Trauma in effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perspectives on trauma.
Perspective on
Something
trauma.
like that.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
We always figure it out.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining us on episode 2 of Munch Buds. The Canes was delicious. It was very nice after a long work day. And I hope you all have a wonderful time. Take care, everybody.
See ya.